you need to do your job and do that. They need to know and trust that the people leading them at their school will uphold the very things that they're teaching them. They need examples of strong, God-loving Americans who are close to them that will know and they will take a stand for them. I know there's many other schools, we have many friends throughout Pennsylvania, their schools are taking a stand against this. They're not worried about losing their funding because these mandates cannot be enforced. It's a mandate, it's not a law. They can't take away your funding. I think our school needs to stand up and do the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you. City List, Mr. Bowman, 473 Historical Road, affiliates as a parent.
Hi, my name is Jason Bowman, Jennifer's husband. I am an Air Force veteran and also a doctor of pharmacy with 21 years of experience working in hospitals. I know what it means to serve my community and my country. As Americans, we have rights and freedoms that are ordained by God, not our government. We, the people, are the government. We decide what government does, not vice versa. Our elected officials have given us mandates such as masks, and they're telling us we need to comply. Mandates, directives, guidance, medical policies, these are not laws. Masks don't work, period. Surgical masks aren't effective at blocking particles smaller than 100 microns. COVID-19 particles are 0.125 microns in size. It's not too hard to see the math there. They go right through the masks. On the CDC website, they have a study that shows that there's only a 1.37 student case difference per 500 students enrolled in schools that was in Georgia, that with the difference between optional and required masking. That's all they had to show that masks could actually help. Studies have also shown that statistically there's zero chance of children dying from COVID. And they've also shown to be a major threat to a child's development. Masks are authorized for emergency use only. This has already been said. And according to the FDA, emergency use authorization requires a few things: full disclosure of potential risks, informed consent, and the right to refuse. These rights are not supported, but are also supported by the Nuremberg Code, the Declaration of Helsinki, and the United States Code of Federal Regulations. Masks can't prevent viral diseases. To promote them as such is an illegal, deceptive practice. By forcing children to wear masks, the school and you personally can be held liable under federal and state laws. I urge you to return to your original plan of the mask being optional for students. Any other course of action is contrary to the law.
Thank you. Dr. Crowley, 18 Staff Street, Howard, affiliates as a parent.
Let's get closer, right? Thank you for this allotted time to speak on the face covering order. And yes, my name is Casey Crowley. I reside in Pine Township and I have 2 children in Penn Manor. I am proud that our school district kept our doors open and had in-person classes all last year. We led the way with the school board and administration standing strong for our children to have the best opportunity to learn. Then this year, again, you all have proven your dedication and passion for this district by developing a school health and safety plan that is beneficial to all, making masks optional. Our PA state representatives have made public statements in support of our school boards maintaining local power to decide whether masks will be required or not. On August 31st, Representative Dave Rowe pointed out that, quote, local school boards still wield the power. We are a commonwealth, not a monarchy. Local government should be handling local issues, end quote. Legislators from York and Adams County announced on August 31st, quote, "Our locally elected school directors have weighed all of the options, consulted with students, parents, teachers, administrators, health experts, and taxpayers to make these difficult decisions in the best interest of their community when creating their school health and safety plans. Fortunately, for school districts, these locally created plans are still valid." A few weeks ago, Secretary of Education Ortega said that there would be no funding cuts for decisions locally elected school directors make in their own school district, end quote. This is a PA Department of Health order. According to numerous PA state representatives, this is not enforceable. Therefore, there will not be penalties for non-compliance. Penns Manor Area School District has a strong administration and school board. We have an improved school health and safety plan for this year, allowing parents and students to choose to wear a mask. I fully support keeping masks optional. In light of the decision made today by our administration to comply with this unenforceable order, my question now is to each board member is whether or not you feel that we should keep masks optional. I call for a vote to be presented on this issue. This school board and administration has my support and those here to keep the approved optional mask plan. Let's lead the way again and keep our local power. This school board has the power to keep masks optional. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Janine Pegg, 579 Historical Road, Strongstown, affiliates as a parent.
Thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak. I didn't really plan on being here tonight. I've been at work all day. I also work in healthcare. I've worked in healthcare my entire adult life. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I am here tonight as a parent. I left my children at home to come and fight for their right to breathe air. And I think that is absolutely absurd that I have to do that. I am a single parent. Anybody who knows me and knows my children will know that we have endured a lot of personal suffering for different reasons over the years. So I know what loss is, I know what suffering is, and there has been extensive undue suffering to myself, to my children, to many other parents and children over the course of this pandemic. That is 100% unnecessary, and we need to stop it, and we need to stop it now. I too am very pleased with our school district's response to everything. I thank all of the teachers and staff every opportunity that I have for showing up in light of the fear that has been created over this, because I understand there's a lot of fear. There's no reason for it. It's not, there's no valid basis for it, but I understand that a lot of people are afraid, and I commend those people for showing up anyway. I appreciate you all fighting to stay open. Mr. Johnston, I heard you speak at my nephew's graduation this summer, and I could hear the urgency in your speech and your talking to these students about fighting and being a presence in the world. And we need you guys to do that now. I will fight for my children. I'm a single parent. I don't have a lot of help in that. I work full time, but I will fight for my children. I will go to the ends of the earth for them, and we elected you to fight for them as well. If you vote to cover their faces and not allow them to breathe at school all day, you are not fighting for my children, and I will not support that. I am speaking from a viewpoint. We left Penns Manor a few years back and did cyber school with my older two children. We elected to come back because my kids want to be here. They don't want to wear masks. They're afraid to fight it because they're kids. They need people fighting for them. And I think that as the school board, you should be here to fight for them. I'm not sure what else you would be fighting for, or why else you would be here. But you need to think about the kids that you're here for. It's not about funding. It's not about personal protection. It's about the kids. in any decision other than to allow the parents and children to make this decision. I talk to my children about health and nutrition extensively. They will probably tell you they get sick of hearing about it. But I have them participate in their decisions for their health and explain things to them and encourage them to do their own research. I've done my own research. I have not found anything supporting the use of masks or confirming that they are effective in any way. My viewpoint on the masks from the beginning, I said that the point of these masks was to dehumanize us, and I think that has worked. And I think that is the only purpose at this point. So if I also have, collected studies and information that I can provide to you upon request supporting that decision. I will gladly provide them. I will gladly review any studies that you all may have contradicting that. I have yet to find one. So the masks, as many other people have said, they don't work, period. They work at dehumanizing people. They work at spreading disease and causing disease. If you research oxidative stress, you'll find that it can lead to conditions like cancer. So, do you want these kids to be healthy and prevent things like this and teach them to make wise health decisions? Or do you just want to control them and tell them what to do because you're afraid? Thank you.
Ms. Lucille Schilling, 525 Hancock Street, Clymer, PA, affiliates as a parent.
Hello, I'm here for the mask mandate as well. Our kids have went to school in the last year with mask on. They've come home really tired from having to wear a mask all day. When I told them that there was a potential of having to go back to the mask mandate, my daughter has anxiety over it. Many of you know my daughter. My one son says, "Mom, I can't hear a teacher through the mask. It makes it hard to understand what they're telling me, what they're saying to me, and I'm here as a parent concerned. If we don't take a stand for our rights as American citizens, then we'll fall for absolutely anything. So we've went a whole year wearing a mask. If the mask works, then why do we have to quarantine a kid if they sat beside somebody that had COVID? So I'm just here asking you as school officials, school boards, to please let it up to the kids, let it up to the parents if they want a mask or if they don't want a mask. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Luke Bothell, 741 Spalding Road, Penn Run. Do you affiliate as a parent?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Luke. I am new to the school. My son is 5. He is in kindergarten. I found out about this meeting about 2 o'clock. So I hurried up to finish the house I was painting and printed some stuff out. Everything was spoken. Everything's been said. Anything I have is on this, and it's on the desk if anyone wants to read it. My wife's also a teacher, and we talk about, you said about the kids and the fighting. We're fighting. My wife said to her school, and she's not in Penns Manor, she said, "I'm not wearing a mask." They said, "You can't do that." She's like, "I'm not wearing a mask." She said, "I'm not telling kids," because where she's at, she has to write down what kids wear a mask, what kids don't, separate them. That doesn't sound right. You all know that's not right. We are willing for her to lose her job. That's all of our benefits. That's everything. We'll lose everything. I don't care. When's this going to end? And again, I know you guys are great. Why? Because we did research schools, and I'm going to be honest, Penns Manor's #1, but we also voted you guys in. Our taxpayer dollars go towards this. We have a voice. If you want to wear a mask, by all means, tell your kid, wear a mask, do it. But we don't want to. I don't want to. And my wife and I are willing to lose everything for it, because how much farther do we have to go until this stops? And you all know that. Until they come knocking on your door, you're not going to do anything. I don't have much to say on that. I mean, these people are professionals. I'm a painter. I know it's wrong. I do my research. I don't have the schooling they do. They have said everything, and everything they've said is spot on. So I'm just here to stand with them. You guys have a good, if you choose to not deal with this and say, no, we're not going to do, you have all of us to back you up, and there's more of us. Some people couldn't come. Some people didn't come. We will back you up. We're in this together. But if you don't, then we can't. And I will pull my son from this school. I will homeschool him. My wife won't have a job anyway. She can teach him how to learn and do, whatever. But I don't want to have to do that because I think you do have a good school. So I like I said, I don't have much more to say. It's already been spoken. But I just wanted to say my piece. So thank you.
Ms. Lacey Cunningham, 2874 Hood School Road, affiliates as a parent. Sure. Do you not want to speak at all? Okay. Mr. Brian Day, 631 Nolo Road, Penn Run, affiliates as a parent.
Hi, my name is Brian Day. I have two children that come to this school. My oldest son, he's been affected by this in the past year with the mask mandates. He told me last year that he was praying for a snow day because he didn't want to wear a mask. So he has autism. So, but we went to the doctor, and he can be exempt. But I don't want to do that because that singles him out, and I don't want to single him out. I want to fight for all the students or all the students of the school, and all these great parents that are fighting, for these not to mandate this. Again, we voted for y'all to do the right decision, to make the right decision for our kids. Everybody's covered everything that I've came here to stand against. I think it's pretty ridiculous if we follow an order from the governor that doesn't really have any signs to really back it up. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Amanda Frampton, 1030 Sage Street, affiliates as a parent.
I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing about statistics. I'm sure you're tired of hearing about the medical. We see it everywhere we go. But what we're saying to you today is that we voted you into office to stand up for our kids. I could not be more proud, and a lot of you know me here, how I feel about Penns Manor. It's a love-hate relationship, but it's more love because it's a family. And in a family, you have that love-hate relationship. I know that some of you here and how much you care about your kids, your own kids that came through this school. What I'm trying to say today is the Comet way is to stand up for ourselves, right? You preach it to the kids from kindergarten, K4, the Comet way. If you see somebody doing something wrong, you stand up for them and you go and you stand up for yourself. And why are we not doing the Comet way? Why are we not doing the Comet way? We're adults. If that meant anything to anybody, the Comet way, we would be discriminating. We would be just showing it. We would be doing it. I work in education too, and I work with Armstrong County. I work with different counties. And all last year, I could not, anytime anybody would be like, oh, your kids are on quarantine, huh? They're shut down. I'd be like, no, my kids go to Penns Manor. We have an awesome superintendent. Nope, we go to Penns Manor. Oh, you're shutting down. No, they just take a Wednesdays half a day because that's when they do deep cleaning. And yeah, they have to wear a mask and all this other stuff. But it's Penns Manor because we're taking a stand and saying, you know what? No, we're going to follow the guidelines, but this is what we're going to do. Listen, I'm not going to tell you a law. I pulled this up from an attorney and everybody wants to see it. You guys know, the laws better than I do. You do. Or we hired somebody to do it. They're a solicitor. We've got to stop this now, though. We've got to. What about the mental health of the kids? I'm here to tell you right now, just like the other ones have said it, what are the consequences if Penns Manor says, no, we're making it optional? What do you need from us, the parents here, right now? We are telling you, all of us that are standing here, what do you need from us to help you make this an optional? What? Tell us. We'll do it. We'll do it. What do you need from us? What are the consequences if my child comes in and decides on Tuesday that he's not wearing a mask? What are the consequences? I looked it up. I didn't see anything. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be that it's a disciplinary because he's not following the staff's direction. And what am I supposed to say to my child? You know what? You should be because your teacher's telling you. Well, what about if your teacher tells you something else? I'm not saying disrespect. And I'm sure you're tired of everybody hearing it. And I'm sure you guys are all tired of reading about it and watching CNN or Fox News or whatever one it is. Or looking up on Facebook and seeing this stuff. But something needs to be done. I'm not trying to take away anybody's right to wear a mask. But what I'm saying is let my child and me decide if he's going to wear a mask. And if you need help, we're here. We're here. If you need us to stand up and write a letter to all the other parents, if we do get in trouble in funding, which I don't believe it is because everything that I've been reading that everybody else has said too, then guess what? We'll take the hit. We'll take the hit. Because there's going to be a certain time that we're going to have to be held accountable ethically. Did it matter that much that we didn't get that funding? Yeah, I know, Mr. Larch, you're probably freaking and saying yes, but does it matter? Doesn't matter in the long run. If we can say, no, we stood up and we did it the Comet way that we see everywhere we go. So what I'm asking you today is just consider sitting down. And I know it's not a vote. I listened. I understand this is not a voting kind of meeting today. But let's sit down, have a dialogue. Let's put it up for vote to make it optional. And then call us in and we'll support you. And if you disagree with us, then that's fine. But sit down and talk to us. Just don't follow like the rest of the sheep because it was mandated. That's all we're asking. I think every one of us here would respect you 100% more than we do even right now if you would just sit down and have a dialogue. That's what we're asking for right now. Steps, right? That's what we tell our kids too. You got to do small steps. You can't do big jumps. You got to play this right. You got to do the right cards. You got to do it right. You got to be respectful. So we're asking you respectfully to consider voting. The masks are, again, as you already voted, optional. Pull us into the conversation. We want to be in that conversation with you. Tell us what you need from us. We're here to back you. We're here to back you. Let's show the kids Comet Way that we're so very proud of. That's all I'm asking. Just think about the Comet Way. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, Mr. Hardison, Mr. Johnson.
Want to make sure no one else wants to speak. Mr. Johnston will explain the administration's decision to change or to go the way we're going. His interpretation, our solicitor's interpretation of the mandate, and then we'll have certainly a opportunity before or after Mr. Johnston for any board member to make a statement. Mr. Johnston.
Sure. First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you coming this evening. I appreciate the fact that you recognize that we are a community. And I want to say this, and I think I can speak for everyone around this table. You are frustrated. This group is frustrated. Okay? So please understand. I always, as you talk about Penn's Manor, I as a superintendent go to every other school and say, I work for the best board there can be in this county. So please understand, these individuals around the table, all volunteer. I get it. They're elected by you, okay? But please understand, many discussions, many hard discussions have been had by this board throughout the past 2 years over all of this, okay? I know that I have a strong community that supports us. But I think what I need to explain to you right now is why the decision is made so that you understand. I want to answer, why did you have a plan and all of a sudden it's like this? I want us to get to a point where we all feel safe. What I mean by that is everything that I ask this board to do, I always think of safety first. Okay? So I want to make sure that everybody has a copy of the order that was put out and the rationale that the order was done by the state. Okay? There's probably no one more frustrated than me. I love kids. I love my job. I live in this community. I support everything in the community. Have a terrific board to work with. You have all supported anything I've asked you to do. Right now, I don't want us to create an environment in which we separate us. So as you're passing that out, there's just things that I want to point out as answering Mr. Cameron is, Mr. Johnston, did you lose your marbles? What happened from the point in time which you talked to me until today? I want to be able to say to you, when this order goes into effect Tuesday, what is going to happen and what can I do? I'll explain it to you. I'm always a black and white person. I will not hold anything back. I think I have a board that's the same way. So I want to explain to you why this all transpired, okay? And so I get it. You are frustrated because I have a row of administrators and a table full of board members that are. Number one, they're frustrated with the fact that, listen, folks, I get it, but COVID has hit here. All these people personally around this table because we're actually missing a board member because of COVID. So it weighs just on you as much as these people, okay? I have never seen a time in education that I've been in that a board has to have so much stress as they have now. I've never been in a time in which parents have had so much stress. So I'm asking you, whatever you do, please do not bail ship. Continue to talk to us and let's work together, okay? So let me explain what has happened. I'm a commissioned officer as a superintendent, okay? What that means is that I have to go and take an oath in saying that I will uphold the rules and regulations and laws handed down by the Department of Health, the Department of Ed, etc. Okay? So please understand that I am directed that way as the commissioned officer of the district to follow that state regulation. So let's go and talk about why the state says, why in the world on Tuesday, and the superintendents didn't know, did you end up putting this order out? Okay? Because we found out 1 hour before you. And that's frustrating. I get it. It is frustrating to all of us. So I'm just asking you to look. Please take the time because I am going to have dialogue with you and I want you to understand. I don't want you thinking, Mr. Johnston, you lost your marbles. Okay? So if you take a look at the first page, this is exactly why they told us as superintendents, why are we putting this order out? Okay? Just want to highlight a couple of things. First paragraph, they definitely highlighted the 1 million cases, the 28,000 deaths across the state. They also talked to us about the rise in hospitalization and deaths. And on the same exact day, our local hospital closes off all visitors. Okay? So all this is happening at the same time. In addition, they highlighted the fact of the number of students at the bottom of that paragraph, that second paragraph. And as of August 26th, they highlighted us 23,974 cases of children ages 0 to 4. Next age group, 5 to 12, 56,039. Next age bracket, 12 to 18, 88,205. That is the reason for issuing the order. Next, I want to answer the fact, if you go back to page 3, there's more explanation, but the actual order begins there. I just want you to go to page 5. I want to answer Mr. Cameron's question. of why did you have a plan in place? Before I talk about that page, you are exactly right. We had a plan in place that we were going to use this year that identified this, that masks were optional unless we got 5 cases in a school building. And then we were going to go remote for a day or two. And then when we come back, we would require masking in order to get through that stage of cases. Okay? So that was our plan. Rising in cases across the state causes the Department of Health to issue this order. So, under what a school entity must do, Section 4 of the order says require and enforce the requirement that all teachers, children, and staff, visitors are ordered to wear a face mask. Look at the last line. Regardless of whether this order is reflected in the school entity's health and safety plan. Okay? So, now it's taken away from me to advise these people. Okay? So, that order is placed to me as the commissioned officer to say, it's an order that we must follow. If you're asking then, what is it that we can do? Then how this got put in place, you've got to talk to legislators to say, we need help to get it removed. So I have some people that are on the opposite side of what you spoke about this evening. And then there are the other group, you coming this evening, expressing your concern. Remember, it's our job to bring everybody together. So when I have folks at this end and at this end, and this in front of me as a commissioned officer, I can't, taking an oath, say to the board, defy the order. I can't. I also can't, after contacting the school's physician, and the recommendation was, yes, you need to follow the order. I contacted the school solicitor, shared that with the board. Absolutely, the school solicitor says, you all need to follow that order. We also have a second attorney that works with all of our contracts. That attorney too said, you must follow the order. This afternoon at 2 o'clock, I receive another email that indicates to all superintendents, reminding us once again that we are commissioned officers and that we must follow the order. If we don't, I know you're all indicating at some point that, okay, you're liable. I am being told to tell this board by 2 solicitors, and now directed again, that we are liable, knowing that all the cases that they have identified on page 1, and if we don't, we are liable if we don't follow the order. So I just wanted to explain why that was issued, why it was changed, and what's taken place. I also want to explain that on Tuesday, there are exceptions to wearing a face covering. So if you would go with me to page 4, so that I can explain how we would operate on Tuesday. Section 3, the exemptions. Now listen, this is everybody that comes inside of a building. So this is all employees, this is students, everyone. So some of these are going to be, well, why is that there? For example, if wearing a face covering while working would create an unsafe condition in which to operate equipment, meaning with custodians, maintenance, things of that sort, they are exempt during that work to wear. B, if wearing a face covering would either cause a medical condition, etc., also lend to mental health, all you need to do is get a medical excuse to give to any administrator, and that child would be exempt. That also relates to any student in special education that would end up having that identified in their individualized educational plan. Any of that information can be given to an administrator, and that particular student is exempt from wearing a mask. C, I get it. Listen, folks, I don't like masks. And you're saying, sitting back there saying, well, Mr. Johnson, are you trying to make a statement to me tonight because you have a mask on? No. You know what I'm trying to do? Get myself used to Tuesday. That's why. At the same token, I've got to sit here and say, okay, Mr. Johnston, in the past 2 weeks, you've had one positive case. Again, we are the lucky school district. We're surrounded by school districts that don't have just one. Today in our conference, we have a school that is remote because of COVID cases. They have too many. So I get it. I look at our own information. Every day I get on the Department of Health and I look. We do have a small number of cases, but I'm telling you, we're surrounded. It's happening. I cannot lie to you. I'm watching it. It's happening. Okay? So let me continue. D, when someone's working alone in an isolated area. E, if an individual is communicating with somebody that is hearing impaired. F, if you're under the age of 2. G, engage in activities that can't be performed while wearing a mask. We will not be having students wear masks during the lunch period. We will not be having students wear masks when they're playing instruments because you just cannot do that. Next page, participating in high intensity activities. They will not be required to wear a mask in any of our physical education classes. They will not be required to wear masks when they're outside of BPA. H, when a child is participating in a sports practice event or activity, indoors or outdoors, they will be exempt from wearing any type of mask. When students are on our outside of our building, they are also not required to wear masks, or our employees. So those are the exceptions at this point. And I would just ask you to please understand that we are not purposely trying to irritate you. If I could come up with a way not to irritate you versus another group that wants masking, I would love to find it. Okay? In turn, I have to say I have to protect kids. And I'm just asking you, all of our kids, we had no issue last year wearing a mask. And I get it. What you're telling me is you're tired of it. Okay? I'm just saying this. Your children abided by what we asked. Therefore, as a parent, you have taught them to listen well. Next, will this last forever? Clearly, we've been communicated by the Department of Health that on the first week of October, it will be reevaluated again. That is the information that is given to me to communicate to the board. As a commissioned officer and a superintendent, I cannot sit here and say to this board, defy that order. I can't. Please read the order. We will have to follow. Question on consequence. I'll tell you right now. We had an administrative meeting that I have an administration team that's frustrated just as much as you. I don't even want to have to say to you what a consequence is. But as an administration, if people's going to put us in a situation that there's a consequence for not wearing a mask, please then get an exemption. Or workforce then to ask this board, and this is committee session, that the motion that would be is to add the definition of masking to not abiding by the dress code. First thing that we would do, first thing we would do is actually communicate with the student. We would then communicate with you. We will then issue a warning, having conversation with you again, saying, we are requiring this to take place. Beyond that step, if the board elects to put that into the discipline code, the consequence then, by that third step, is a detention after school. Do we want to go that direction? Absolutely not. I don't want to, and neither does an administrator. So we're asking you to please abide by the order. Please discuss with your children that manner.
No.
The other option is this. The other option that the school district has is a cyber school here in our district. I would not want you to make that choice at all. I want your kids here. I welcome anytime you want to have a conversation. I'm not sure if I will take a couple questions if I can answer them. If a board member wants to express anything, I understand you're frustrated. I am understanding this whole community is frustrated with COVID altogether. I get it. But when it comes down to it, of the data that I look at, the position I'm in, I have to recommend that this district follows that order. Questions?
This is not a law. You do not have to
Speak
abide.
up, please.
I said, this is not a law. You do not have to abide by this. You're sitting here telling us you have to abide by this as a commission officer, but you do not. We have legal guidance from the Frontline Doctors of America who are supporting parent groups in fighting their school boards and their states and their districts about this. And I think there is enough parents in this district that would be willing to join together and do that. If you're not willing to at least look at the science behind this that you say you're following. If you can show us studies that support what you're supporting, then fine, but I can guarantee you that you cannot. And the sad thing is none of you are willing to even look into it. You're blindly following orders. You need to be critical thinkers and think for ourselves and understand why we're making these decisions, and that's not being done. If you want our support with this as individuals on the board, as the board altogether, then you need to hear us and you need to look into this stuff and discuss stuff and have a dialogue with us, because what you just said after everything we've said does not make me feel like you are supporting our children at all.
And if I may add, so Mr. Johnson, don't you find it kind of threatening that they sent you a reminder email? You must follow. I mean, the big picture here, I realize we're looking at mass and health, and everybody has spoke about how unhealthy it is, which I believe and have seen the same thing. But what's at stake here is what I expressed earlier. It's personal freedoms. And then when you bring up that you would just have to add it to the dress code, I mean, that isn't very reassuring. I'm becoming very disappointed now. I enjoyed everything that everybody had to say. These are parents, myself, my wife included, that love our kids and want the best for them. But we need to stand up to this ruling. This, I don't know, if I was in that type of position, like this fellow said his wife would lose her job over. Well, I don't know. I'm very disheartened right now.
I would like to point something out too. You're referring to the numbers on this paper of cases. That's numbers of cases. How many of those people are actually ill? Because I had COVID in February of this year. I didn't feel so hot for about 48 hours and I couldn't smell for a week. That was rough. These kids don't need to have their faces covered or be taken out of school because they can't smell or they don't feel so hot for a day. They stay home for a couple of days then, and then they're fine. So that is no basis for this decision. And you're saying that you have to follow orders and you can't ask the board to change this decision. We're asking you to change this decision on our children's behalf.
Oh, please don't take it wrong. Board can override anything that I make a decision.
We're asking you to do that for us. We're asking you to stand up for our children, not follow orders from the state government.
Well,
we care about our children.
Yeah, no, that's what I was trying to get at too. Like, Mr. Johnston's correct. He is a commission officer, and that is his job. And so for him to disregard that would be losing his job or doing. But this isn't about Mr. Johnston. He's administration. This is about our board. Our board is the one that has the power. So it's our board that can make all these decisions. And Mr. Johnson isn't the correct thing. He was speaking correctly for himself for that. But it's the board.
But we're
You guys.
asking the board
Yeah,
to
that's what I'm
change that
saying.
decision.
It's everyone else there sitting And yes, you were advised correctly by Mr. Johnston from his viewpoint of being commissioned officer, but that is not what we're asking.
And I think you want communicated from me, and that's why I'm not trying to dishearten anyone. But I did want you to understand the order and what it is that I have to have administration, everyone follow Tuesday. I don't want you going out of here not having that order and not understanding what's in it.
Well, we also need to remember that we talk about research and actually searching things for yourselves. And I would encourage everyone, do a little research and please prove me wrong. Show me what laboratory or anywhere has ever been able to isolate the virus. They can't. Not a single one can isolate the virus. You don't know exactly what it is because you can't isolate it. Technically, you can't make a vaccine on something that you can't isolate. And now we're enforcing masks for something we can't isolate. We want to talk science, just put it in their face. Isolate it. Show me it isolated. That's it. Show me it isolated. You can't. And please prove me wrong. I would love for someone to prove me wrong. Please go dig into it.
I would like you, the board, to realize that I understand what the solicitor and another lawyer said, but there's lawyers upon lawyers that are saying right here, I have a quote, I didn't say when I was talking, but the Department of Health cannot tell school boards what to do. The Pennsylvania school board gives school boards very broad authority to determine what happens in their own school districts. That is the authority that we have. There are senators from different areas, not in Indiana County, but I will be calling him literally tomorrow. There are senators and representatives saying that this is wrong. This is not legal. What he is doing is illegal. I'm asking you guys to look into that. School board, I understand Mr. Johnson's where he is, but if maybe we need a new solicitor then. Maybe we need a new solicitor. But we need to take more options, just two. We need to look at it further. We need to see what truly we need. I understand that they are guiding us, but we need to guide ourselves too. And I have contradiction from what the solicitor said, that we do not need to follow. The board does not need to follow the mandate.
The liability that was addressed, and I'm sure that the solicitor and both of them addressed, it's a personal liability. So individually, if found, it goes back to that, 1955, I'm not pretty sure the exact law, but it's that old law that basically if you say you have HIV and you purposely have HIV, you purposely go out and try to infect other people with HIV, it has to be intent, right? There has to be, I'm not a lawyer, but this is what I was reading. And I mean, I've read the law myself, but the point is they have to prove it. And at the most, it's a $300 fine. And that's if you're found guilty of intent of infecting someone. That's the liability. That was the only, and our governor, Governor Wolf, is the one that also stated that one. So that's the only consequence he's stated. So, and this is straight, right, right on line. This isn't something hidden.
Correct. So here's the answer from PDE from the question, what's the potential consequence of a school entity who fails to comply the order? School officials who fail to adhere to the order could lose protection of sovereign immunity and may personally face lawsuits from those who may be affected by the official's attempt to ignore the order. And it is from the Disease Prevention and Control Law of 1955.
Yeah, yes, that's what I'm referring to. And if you look up the actual court cases on that, they're very rarely found guilty, and that's why the maximum fine is $300, because you have to have intent, and you have to prove that you actually made that person sick with the intent from that disease that you had, and all this. It's an arbitrary scare tactic kind of thing, and this is so. The board, again, you guys have the power to make this decision to make it optional. You are the ones that have that.
So it's our children's health worth $300 to all of you.
Well, the individual, they have to do it
Yeah,
individually.
it should be, is it worth
fines,
$300?
And even then, it'd be individual court cases. It's something that no one would do. I'm telling you. I mean, I can't quote it for sure because, maybe someone would really have a, spiteful intent, but.
I've sat quiet for most of this. Some of you know me, I'm a registered nurse. I've been a registered nurse for 15
Your name,
years.
please?
Karen Sturgeon.
Okay,
My
you're not
daughter's-
on, we can't hear.
Okay, sorry.
Let's,
My daughter's a senior this year. She stayed home last year because she did not want to wear a mask. She missed out on ag. She's very big into ag. She was the treasurer her sophomore year. She missed out on that her junior year. She just started back for her senior year. She's like, yay, no masks. The one thing about masks that I do know, I have to wear it every day, 12 plus hours a day. It's great. When I have a COVID patient, because I do get COVID patients, even though I work in maternity, I work in labor and delivery. I have to deliver moms who have COVID. It happens. 99% of the time, these women are asymptomatic. They don't have like taste or smell, same kind of thing. We all have to realize that this is the new flu. A lot of you might not agree with that, but it is. This is our flu. Where'd the flu go? Haven't seen it. It's been gone for a year now. Haven't seen any flu cases. This is what it is now. My thoughts on this as well with the masks. Fungal infection. You know what happens when you get a fungal infection and it goes into your brain? You die. How do you get a fungal infection in your brain? It goes to your sinuses. Where does that start? On the mask. I had a friend die, 36 years old, got a fungal infection, went to his brain. You can't treat that. And our pharmacists will speak to that. The blood-brain barrier, nothing crosses that. Antifungals will not cross that. So we're putting our kids at risk for fungal infections by making them wear masks. These are kids. They take them down. They touch them. They're touching everything. Little ones. I have a 14-year-old. He won't keep his hands off of his face. It drives him nuts as well. My daughter has anxiety. She takes anxiety meds. She cannot stand having a mask on. If I have to get her an exemption, fine, I'll do it. But these doctor's offices in Indiana County, Jabber, Pediatric Associates, Dr. Lou Bold, I'm sure you guys all know her, they're going to have a fit because they're going to get inundated with parents wanting exemptions now. So again, I'm asking you nicely, sorry, get a little fired up, but I'm asking you nicely to please take this to a vote at some point in time. Don't do this to our kids. They don't deserve another year of this. Cases are rising a little, yeah, ooh, but it's nothing that bad. It's not. This is survivable. Vitamin D, people, take your vitamin D, take your zinc, take your vitamin C. These things will prevent it. If you lead a healthy lifestyle, stop. Heck, I think if we're worried about our children's health, let's reevaluate our cafeteria and what they're feeding our kids. Okay, sorry, I'm done.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any board member like to have a?
I'd like to say one thing. I'll keep this really short. There's two points really I want to make.
State
First,
your name, please.
I'm Jill Eckenrode. I've been on the board since 2006. The first thing is we all understand that we've been elected by the people in our respective areas. I understand that. But what you have to understand too is that for all of you here tonight, and I respect you for being here, I personally have gotten phone calls and emails from people asking us to support this order. And like Mr. Johnston said, we have people, there are people that support it and there are people that don't. We weren't just elected by the people that support it and the people that don't. We were elected by all of them. So we have to try to come to some kind of a medium. The second thing is someone said the fear is unfounded. The fear is unfounded. Mr. Johnston mentioned this, and I realize that some of you may not know this, but Ron Belchick served on this school board for how many years? 28?
28, I think.
28 years. He died in January from COVID. His brother almost lost his life. I'm just saying, don't say the fear is unfounded because it's founded.
All of us know.
We didn't interrupt you.
We didn't interrupt you.
Please.
I'm sorry.
I'm just making a point. The final point that I'd like to make is we've heard a lot of people say you need to fight for our kids. We spend a lot of time here in this room, the 9 of us. These 9 people you see, well, some of them are virtual, but we have children, grandchildren, relatives that come to these buildings every day just like you do. Okay? We come in here and we have to make really difficult decisions. And a lot of times we're judged on just one thing, a budget. This is very important. I understand that. But to say that we're not fighting for kids, because that's why we're here. Yes, we fight for kids every single day. And the funny thing is that a lot of criticism and a lot of board members get criticized. And I'm not saying there's not times we should not be criticized. We're far from perfect. But the one thing that you need to understand is that this is not an easy job. And there's a reason why a lot of people don't run for school board. Because they think it's easy until they get here. It's not. So just know that we do care about your kids, because these kids, a lot of these kids are our kids, they're our grandchildren, they're our relatives too. That's all I want to say. We do care. We care a lot about the kids. But sometimes there's decisions that we have to make that you have no idea how hard they are. That's all I'd like to say.
Jill, what are you hearing from those emails of people who agree with this mandate? I just want to know what the other side is saying.
What they're saying is that you have to understand, you guys have a really strong feeling, and I understand what you're saying, but there are people that have an equally strong feeling on the other side. They watch the numbers, they see the cases, and you can say they're not this, they're not that, but they are worried about their children's safety, just like you're worried about their well-being. So what I'm saying is, it's not just one way. There's two sides to this.
I think we were saying that because we agree with the optional.
I get that. And
that's what we're saying. None of us not once did I hear that nobody came up forward with disrespect. I actually even said a family, because I feel like it's a family. Like you said, it's a love-hate relationship. Sometimes we're gonna butt heads, but we're all gonna come back and I don't think any one of us thinks that what you guys do is easy. Not one of us.
I'm not saying that.
We're not being disrespectful.
No,
what
we're
we're
not.
saying is, and you keep saying that we need to meet in the middle. We did think you guys were meeting in the middle with the optional. That's
Well,
what we're
okay,
saying.
and I'm not
I
gonna.
understand. Listen, it's easy to put on a mask or take it off. If they're afraid, put a mask on.
Okay.
Nobody's gonna judge.
Okay, here's the thing. I'm not going to speak to that because our superintendent's already, he's addressed the issue of the order. Those are the only points that I wanted to make. Darren, I'm going to put it back to you.
Sure.
Thank you for letting me speak.
Absolutely. Any other?
Anyone else?
Yeah, I do want to just say one more thing, because I'm sorry that I did rudely interrupt, but, I heard about Mr. Bielchik, and that's an unfortunate loss. My family suffered a loss because of COVID. My children's father was not able to go in and say goodbye to his father, who supposedly died because of COVID. I don't really have any way to verify that because no one was allowed in the hospital. So I've seen a wide range of people affected by this. I'm sure other people here have. We're not discrediting that. That's not why we're here. People are going to die from this. Our kids don't have to suffer because of this. That's what we're saying. And we're asking you to meet in the middle and let it be a parent choice. But you're not allowing that. You're not meeting in the middle. You're making the decision for these kids, and that's what we're fighting against.
Thank you.
If I may just
Please.
one comment. I think when Karen said here, and I went to school with Karen, when she said it's the new flu, I think that's probably very accurate. I mean, yes, it's I think if we have this vision that it will be eradicated and normalcy will return again, I don't think that's realistic. So we have to decide, are we going to make ourselves be normal? Are we going to live with this disease, let people make their own decisions about it, and go back to normal? Because like you said, they're going to reevaluate in October. Well, I don't gamble, but I'd easily bet $10,000 they're going to extend it again. Because that's what this man does. We had 2 weeks, it lasted 2 years. So again, the point is bigger than that. It's like, how are we going to handle this? And I just don't think it's the right way. I think parents need to have the choice. And I have told my kids, if kids wearing a mask at school, to treat it like it's not even there. That's their parents' choice. And it needs to be vice versa. And frankly, that, I believe the parents here, myself, that is the only thing that's acceptable to us. I can't even believe we're here at this meeting with this type of environment even happening. It's like a twilight zone. And I'm sure you guys think that sometimes too. But it's gotta stop. It's gotta stop. And and let it be with us. Because there is no end. It will continue, and every year we will hope, oh, maybe next year the kids won't have to wear masks. Oh, maybe next year they won't have to. And before you know it, our kids are graduating. After starting in 7th grade, hoping we won't have to wear masks. It'll never stop if we don't make a stand. I truly believe.
I'm speaking as a member, not as president. The concern that I have with the presentations this evening, I'm all on with the health issue, with anxiety, with the dislike of masks. Where I have issue is where you want this board to have a public rebellion against our duly elected officials.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's not what we're here for. We have no right to do that as a board.
Isn't that how this country was born?
Ma'am, I
This is
understand.
America, isn't it?
It is. It
We have the
absolutely
right to
is.
divide one person.
But all we can do, me as a board member, is to follow the rules and regulations. We all can talk.
Civics class to stand up for their freedoms. You're teaching them they have a civic duty to stand up for their freedoms and constitutional rights. Do you not believe what you're teaching them?
Yes, I do. And I believe, ma'am, I believe that if we have civics class, that we also teach folks to follow the duly elected rules, laws, etc.
Right, rules and laws.
Mandates are right there.
No, they're not.
Well, okay,
No,
that's up
because
for,
the problem with this law is it's not a law. And the voters did vote to stop Wolf from mandating
No.
us.
they,
Emergency mandates. and we
longer
found
than
a way
20
around it.
days or something, I think.
But what I'm saying is that Wolf, we
Well-
have representatives and senators that are telling us to go to our school board and have them say, we're not gonna follow this. I mean,
Well-
there's several representatives that are saying, you do that because till we get a law enacted, it's
Which
gonna be
they've
a
already
year.
started.
I'm one of 9
Allows
people.
Parents to opt out their children from school mask mandates. Senate Bill 846 has already been presented.
Okay,
They already started it because they knew Wolf was doing this. They already
Okay.
started a law.
I understand, and that is the process. That's my point. I'm only one person, one of 9. My vote is no stronger than anyone else's. We are 9 individuals representing 3 regions, 3 at each one. They're telling you out there to come and talk to us. I'm personally saying to you, go talk to them and have them control their state government. And that's
Well,
what
they
it
did. He
is.
went around it.
And we're asking you to support our local government. We're asking you to support the
Well,
local school government.
And we
That's
can
what we're
agree
asking.
to disagree which way that is. Mr. Johnson mentioned, why was he wearing a mask? And we all have our reasons that some here are and aren't. 2 years ago this year, my wife was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. Beginning of 2020, she had a stem cell transplant. She is highly susceptible. When things were slowing down, she and I both stopped our masking a little bit. The oncologist at the Cleveland Clinic and UPMC both have recommended that they feel a mask helps protect. I'm just saying that. We can find a lot of things on the internet. We all can find. The first 2 things that I looked up in preparation said masks help. CNN and another place. No, what? Why are you laughing at me?
CNN News Network, that's not science. We're talking CDC, FDA.
Well, okay.
Look at sites like that.
Focuses on a CDC study I mean, they're based on it too, the Centers for Control, et cetera.
I wonder if
Is that
any of
like
you,
my CDC
But-
study that shows no
but-
difference between masks or optional masks?
has any of you actually read these studies? Like, can you provide us with studies? Because we did ask for that.
Or have you had somebody in the medical field who is trained
Yes, we
to
have.
review studies
Our
with you?
school physician.
Can you provide us with studies then? Because I have studies. We all, several of us have studies
Okay.
we can provide you with to support our research. We're asking you to do the same. Have you read any studies?
I personally have not.
We
Okay,
have.
okay,
That's what we're saying.
good.
If
And you've
someone's
shared-
immunocompromised, let them wear the mask.
Pardon?
I agree with immunocompromised people wearing a mask. That makes.
And can I take it home to my wife?
Yeah, she's immunocompromised.
That's right.
So,
So-
yes.
That's the option. That's what we're asking for, is options to make our own choices for our children, to wear a mask or not to wear a mask. That's all we're asking. Listen, my mom had cancer just recently. She was told to wear a mask. She does not believe in masks, so she did not wear a mask. And that was my mother's choice. That's what we're asking.
I
My
understand.
father, because he has no problems. He wears a mask. That's my father's choice. Now, what we're asking is that I make the choice, and my children, we make it the choice as a family unit. That's all we're asking for. Listen, I'm not debating if a mask work or not work. Honestly, I don't care either way. This is what I want. I want the option to say to my child, you don't have to wear a mask, because I don't believe that masks help. But I don't care either way at this point. I just want the option to be able to say to my child, you do not have to wear a mask. That's all I'm asking for. I want the same thing. I have two boys. If the one says I want to wear a mask, then by means, I will buy you whatever mask you want to do. Wear. That is the only thing we're asking for, is an option to make the choice. That's all we're saying. We're never going to change your mind scientifically. You are never going to change our minds. I think we can probably all agree on that. We are asking for the option to do what we feel is right for our own children. That's pure and simple. That's it.
I
Senate
understand.
bill that I just told you, 846, where we can opt out because we don't believe that we should have to force you wear a mask. That's all we're asking for.
My fear is that we err one way or the other. Let's say this is John Hardesty speaking again, just a member from Clymer. If we say it's optional and we're wrong, it's on us. You guys talk about penalties, et cetera, et cetera. It's on us. Now, please,
If we make it optional, it's not on you. It's on them.
just please. I want to personally err to the side of caution. The indications that I have, that we have, are that, yes, it very well may become the new flu, but we don't know yet. And, well, you know, we had a great, you all mentioned it, Mr. Johnston mentioned it. We were in school. Do you not think masks had any help to do that last year? No? Okay.
Not if you look at the other districts that had
They all had that
quarantined so
mask.
much. And I mean, Mr. Johnson said we were lucky. If that's how you want to play, like, we could play that too, but we were very lucky. It just happened to be luck that it didn't matter because Indiana had to close five times, or Purchase Line had to close 7 times and they went Hershey. Then that means luck. That's not, what you're telling me is that you know better for my child than what I do.
No, I don't.
But that's what you're saying when you take away my option on a medical basis. I know I can get exemptions, but what about if my child does not follow? Honestly, both of my children, I could get exempt. But I'm standing here for the child that can't be exempt, but the parent still wants the parent wants the choice if the child should wear the mask or not. So while you're sitting there telling me that we gotta err on caution, no, you're telling me that you know better for what my family needs than I do. And I know you're not trying to be disrespectful, but that's exactly what you're saying.
Well, I apologize if I disrespected any.
No, you're not, but I'm just saying, that is what you're saying to me, is that you know better than I do about my own family.
Anything else, folks? Anyone, last
I
word?
have
Yes,
something to
ma'am.
say. We were told last year when our kids had to come to school with a mask on, that they would get mask break at any given point throughout the day. In the elementary, yes, my daughter got quite a few mask breaks as she needed them. In the high school, the teachers were scared to let those kids put their masks down for fear of their jobs. And I think that is wrong. How would let each one of you that work out there, that get moments to yourself throughout the day, in your own cubicle, you can take it off. In a classroom, you can't take that off. You have to wear it till you get to lunch. Then you have to wear it after lunch. My brother-in-law, his mother passed away from bacterial pneumonia. Do you know what it came from? It came from a face mask that was worn consistently, all the time, every day. And that came from an Allegheny General doctor telling the family that. How do you expect our kids to go on? You take this from the governor and say, okay, you know what, we'll mandate it now, we'll put it into play. In a couple more weeks, let's reevaluate it in October, just as basketball season starts, as volleyball season starts. Next thing you know, you have kids out there wearing masks on a court. I was a coach for my daughter's team, 5th grade team. They had to wear their mask continuously playing. Is that safe? Is that healthy? No, half those girls couldn't breathe in that mask. We are asking as parents to say, okay, we're going to mandate it, but if your child refuses, we are not going to put that in there as you know, this is a disciplinary action. Because if you want to go down that road, like it falls in the same line as the shorts and stuff like that, well, let's talk about cheerleaders and how short their skirts are. I mean, you don't discipline them for wearing things like that on Friday, so why should my child be disciplined for, putting that mask down, to take a breath of fresh air? Each one of you have an office, I am sure, in your workplace where you can go and take it down. But my child don't have that option. They can't go in the hall and take it off because there's all kinds of kids in there. They can't take it off in the classroom because then you're too close. And honestly, if the masks work, then we wouldn't be here right now because all of the United States just masked up, in the past year. We wouldn't be in this situation right now. So we are asking, not Mr. Johnston, but we are asking the school board, please give us, if we have to sign a waiver saying we're not holding the school district responsible if my child gets COVID. I'm a COVID survivor. I'll tell you what, I was sick for a month, but I'm here. I'm a statistic that survived. So please give my children, who's already been susceptible to this disease, because I had it personally, give them the option whether they want to wear it or not. Please.
Thank you. Last call for right now.
I do want to say.
Yes, ma'am.
You're talking a lot about following orders, but this is America and people learn to think critically and fight for what they believe in. And our decisions are based on science and critical thought, not following orders blindly.
And your God-given right.
Amen.
Don't forget that.
Yeah.
It's your God-given right to breathe fresh air. That shouldn't even be a law. You're born. It's your God-given right. If you choose,
That's
again,
a higher authority
well,
than government will.
yes. You can answer that.
Ms. Schilling's had a point. Let's say that this doesn't change and we have to go other routes here and however we have to do this, and this has to stand for the mask. How are you going to put in the breaks? How is that going to be? Every teacher knows when these breaks are. My son was coming out of the cafeteria, taking the last swig out of his pot, and an aide screamed at him to get his mask up over his nose numerous times. How are you going to regulate how it's implemented is my question then. So let's say we're going to do this.
Sure.
And whenever it would roll down, because I'm going to be honest with you, I held it up to the light. Now my kids are probably going to be like, look, I have to wear a new mask. But the thinnest mask that could do it, that would go over the nose, not hurt their ears, I'm going to admit, and it would roll down. And he was walking down the hallway, had his hands full, and another aide yelled at him because it wasn't covering his nose. I'm not talking, please put your mask up. I'm talking yelled by other people that said it. So can you tell us how you're going to administrate the breaks, how you're going to administer, how teachers, aides, everybody is consistent in how they remind the students?
Sure. First, that's the first I'm hearing that we did not do that at the secondary level. So Mrs. Dolges and I will have a conversation tomorrow. We will make sure that happens because you are correct. There can be breaks. I also want the one change in this order that you talked about when it comes to anything with athletics. and practice in the sports, they are exempt from wearing. That wasn't in the past. And I agree. You had I think a 5th grade team or maybe a 3rd grade team that you had to make sure that they wore them while they were playing in the sport. That is now exempt in here. But absolutely, we'll have the conversation. Make sure the breaks happen.
What happens in October, if the school board allows this to happen now, what happens in October when Governor Wolf says, you know what, mask those athletes? What are you gonna do then? Are you gonna follow the mandate too?
Where's the common sense in that anyway? You can take a mask off while you're eating. You can play sports in a gymnasium. This is an airborne virus.
Wait, he put this order down yesterday, right? So today was okay to go to school without a
Yeah.
mask.
But not-
But there's two days, like, it's gonna, all of a sudden.
It's a smart virus. You need to remember that.
Anyone
Can you
else?
please communicate to Mr. Johnson how the breaks are gonna be done once you guys decide?
Sure.
I know it's not gonna be done
Absolutely.
overnight, but can you please do it? And
Absolutely.
I'm just asking, so that, listen, I don't want the mask, I'm not saying that, guys, I'm not trying to, but it's just, we gotta deal with what we got in front of us right now. So can we make sure that it's consistent through
Absolutely.
all grade levels, all teachers, all aides understand?
Absolutely, we will.
Thank you.
And if you guys have a problem with the fact that you are getting these complaints from the kids, Michelle and Darren need to know it.
Yes, well, yeah, well,
Because I know a lot of the teachers were allowing the kids when you're in your seats at your desk, they could take their masks down because the seats are spaced apart. If they weren't letting them, then I should know that. The kids in the hallways, they had to have them on, but in lunch, when they were sitting at their table spaced, they weren't required to have it on. So definitely, let me know that.
But let's think about that too, like Jason said, it's an airborne virus. It doesn't stop at 6 feet. I'm not sure why the 6 feet ever was a thing, but it doesn't follow those rules. It's a
Okay.
virus.
Thank you for coming. We do appreciate it. We do appreciate hearing from you. We are going to go on to our agenda. Please feel free to stay, and we will be discussing the things that are on the agenda. Therefore, I turn it over to Mr. Johnston.
Sure. And you won't offend me if you get up and leave. Don't worry about that. I'm not easily offended. So feel free. You can stay for everything, stay for part of it. Totally
I
up to
just
you.
want to say thank you for your time, Austin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for letting us voice out.
Absolutely. Yep, thank you. Okay, so I've asked the administration to take turns, just taking about 4 or 5 minutes to explain their responsibilities in their areas. So I selected Mr. Gramling to go first. And each month we will just have one administrator. I just want you to understand in their areas what they do. Because sometimes I just assume everybody knows what everyone's doing. But I just want you to take a few minutes for each one. And we'll take one person each month. We won't make everyone go all together. So Mr. Gramling, all yours.
So I wanted to identify who I call as our stakeholders and our customers. So basically it is everybody. Everybody that is in the Penns Manor School District, everybody that has any connection to the Penns Manor School District becomes a stakeholder or a customer of the technology department. That includes all students, all staff, all parents, contractors, guests, etc. If you interface in any way with Penns Manor, there's a piece of technology being facilitated, used to facilitate that work. So if you come to the building as a guest, your driver's license is scanned for alerts. That is a piece of technology that we support and that we interface. If you call the district, you're using the phone system that we support. So we basically report to every single person that has any workings with Penns Manor, and we are responsible for that. The technology department here is a team. It's made up of me and Scott Marino. I rely very heavily on Scott. He is the front line for all the students and all the staff, and he is interfacing the majority of the time with our students and staff. He handles all break fixes and a lot of the new installs. The technology department would not be successful without Scott, and any of our successes that I will touch in later wouldn't happen without him there to back us up. So as I'm addressing all that, realize that we work as a team. I have my responsibilities. Scott has his. He relies on me, and I rely on him. So in technology, we always talk about the areas we support. So we support all hardware in the district, so that's all Windows PCs, Chromebooks, servers. That includes actually repairing those. The one thing we try not to do, unless the device ages out, is just replace it because there's an issue. The student Chromebooks, every new model we come in, we have to actually, and this, like I said, is done mostly by Scott, he repairs any of that damage. We replace screens, motherboards, Wi-Fi cards, keyboards. So we do everything we can to keep the devices in the district working and get them back up and functioning as quickly as possible. Software. The biggest piece of software is Google Workplace, and that is constantly changing. That is our email, our docs, our sheets, the slide presentation that I'm presenting to now is all through Google. Google is constantly changing that stuff. Sometimes with changes being made at the last minute, we're implementing different settings, changes. All that is done through us. Microsoft 365 is a piece of software much like Google that is used worldwide, and it is kind of Google's competitor. We have both of those. One thing we identified early on was that we were paying for a lot of those Microsoft 365 features and weren't using it. So we spun those features up so that our students could get experience using Google, yes, and Microsoft products as well, because that's most likely what they're going to use in the business world when they graduate from here. And then we support various other educational software from Read Live, Read Naturally, Extra Math, Get More Math. There is a ton of software that we support and are constantly identifying, reducing, increasing, and those needs. All the printing in the district runs through the technology department. I am constantly trying to monitor that and reduce it as much as possible. Anybody in the district will tell you I am very anti-printing because I think we have a lot of technology we can leverage instead of printing it out. But we try to identify any savings or ways to streamline that. Communications. This includes all connections to the outside world that come into the building. The intercom bell system is managed by the technology department. And that ties into the next section, which is security. Our intercom system has now become a big part of our security. And the areas of security that we oversee are the cameras. We have over 100 cameras in the district, and we are increasing our card key access. Every chance we can get a grant, we try to add more card keys to the building to try to reduce keys and to further lock down the building so that we can ensure security. Visitor entry is another area that is managed by the technology department. That's the scanning of any driver's license for identifying people at risk that are trying to come into the district. Technology training. During in-services, we provide training to our staff, but that is also conducted throughout the year. One area that I see as a success has been that there are several people that have been in the district, either students or staff that we have worked with that have been afraid of computers that are now sending their own emails and sharing docs. So we were getting them trained up and getting them into using that technology. Of course, the district website is supported by the technology department. A lot of changes are made by us or with our help, and the new addition of all the social media accounts. Another addition as of late has been video production, the live streaming of events, and setting up, and we are going to also be interfacing more with students to help us with those tasks. Just to give a little snapshot of, we are a smaller district, but we have 306 Windows devices. We have 1,125 Chrome devices in the district, 34 network switches, 105 access points, 32 servers, 135 phones, and we support 1,350 user accounts. So to look over our successes, things that we've accomplished, I kind of looked at it over the last 5 years. Every year we close about 1,000 tickets. Those are students or staff. The majority of them are staff that are having issues. And, it's great that we're closing that many, but then we also look to improve by reducing the amount of tickets we have every year, because the less tickets, the less issues there were. One of the things that I found was important was streamlining technology setups. When we started here, every teacher had a unique setup. Some had a laptop, some had only a desktop, some had a desktop and a laptop. Some were running a projector off their desktop, some were running a projector off their laptops. So it was very important that we tried to streamline that down, keep everybody the same, using, some have all the options, some have only used part of those, but at least we know when we go into a room how it's set up, and we don't have to spend time trying to figure out which method they're using to do things. So a lot of that we are able to fix without interfacing with the staff member or the student, because we know how it's already set up and how it should be working. It was important that we increase the amount of devices accessible to the students. 5 years ago, we had 30 Chromebooks and about 100 desktop computers that were accessible to students. Of course, now every student has a Chromebook in their hand, and we have Windows devices in 3 labs for them to access. We've also added computers in areas like the tech ed department for AutoCAD to move in the STEM direction of those programs. So right now in the district, students have access to more than just the one device in their hand, and that is a great improvement over where we were. So the flip side of that is to decrease the amount of devices per staff member. Like I said, those people that had a computer and a laptop in their room, well, the question was, could it all be done by one device? Yes, it could. Why do we want to reduce the amount of devices per staff? Well, it's important to try to stay on top of our technology, so it's not too slow, not aging out. And when it does age out, we don't want to replace twice the amount of equipment. So we reduce the amount of devices per staff member. That's less that we have to replace down the road. And it also allows us to streamline. Part of the one-to-one initiative that we identified was the need to increase our wireless capacity. We almost doubled the amount of access points in the district because we quadrupled the amount of devices that were accessing those access points. So now every single classroom has its own wireless access point. So we are seeing almost none of the issues that we were before. One of the issues was before we got the one-to-one initiative completely off the ground, grades 4 and 5 were almost at one-to-one. And when they would fire up their devices, they would have issues. We no longer have that. So that was an important part to get us to the one-to-one. We moved our internet service from the wireless tower, the wireless microwave that was on top of the gymnasium, to a fiber DQE connection. We are no longer seeing the large outages that we had once experienced. It wasn't uncommon for the district to go without a week of not having internet, so down for 10 minutes or so. It's now a special occasion when we lose internet here at the district, which is a great achievement. Like I said, we added the Office 365 accounts, leveraging already existing subscriptions that we were already paying for to give those students that exposure to the Microsoft side of things. We increased the network backbone capacity, so that's the speed within the district. Most of those network switches are connected back to the internet at a 10 gig pipe. That eliminated any bottlenecks that we were sometimes seeing, especially early in the morning when all the devices were being fired up, and has helped our network reliability. The biggest one, and the one that unfortunately was driven by COVID, but it was something we were working towards. I say we were sped up about 2 years. We had planned to buy so many Chromebooks every year till we got to the one-to-one, and then COVID hit, and that kind of lit that fire that we needed to get there in one big jump. So that was the big initiative. And then, of course, the Chromebook insurance program. Last year we had a very high percentage of participation, and this year we are seeing also probably a little bit lower than last year, but we are also seeing a healthy insurance participation rate. That is important because it helps us ensure that the district is not going to incur additional costs every year from students damaging their Chromebooks. We do hold the students and parents responsible for their Chromebooks and any damage done to it. But of course, that comes with the added risks of having to track down those payments and get that money back, working through the office to get those invoices paid. If the student participates in the insurance program, that repair is already funded and back out to the student that Chromebook goes without any issues. This summer, we replaced the phone system. We had been on the previous phone system for 5 years. We identified about $15,000 a year savings by going to a different phone system. It also allowed us more leverage in carriers. The last system was locked down to a single carrier, and by changing over the phone system, we were able to move to a different carrier as our contract ends, and we can now compete for price on the market rather than being locked into one person. 5 years ago, this was a major success, and it will once again be another success, is the virtual server replacement. 5 years ago, all the servers, like I said, we have 32 servers. When we came on, 14 of those were actual pieces of hardware running various equipment, sometimes running on top of one another. Because of virtual server infrastructure, we're able to run all those 32 server, well, not all those, there's about 5 that are physical, but we were able to run about 28 of those servers on 3 pieces of hardware. So that saves hardware cost, and it also increases reliability. So, like I said, we had that big jump 5 years ago where we went to that, and now we have replaced it in the last couple of weeks, once again driven by support. So those are kind of 2 successes in one point there. So as a department, and this is one of the tasks that I continue to look ahead, is strategic planning, looking to the future. The one thing in technology is there's no finish line. You know, we've identified those successes, but we know that there will continue to be successes in the future. You know, 5-10 years ago, we didn't realize that there'd be a Chromebook in the hands of every Penns Manor student. So that's what's today, is what's tomorrow. Where's that technology going? Are Chromebooks going to be the device for the next 10 years? Maybe, maybe not. So we're continuing to look at that and see where it goes. Device support lifespan. How can we get the full age out of all our devices and have them supported? As I've presented to you in the past, there's a 4 to 5 year lifespan that a lot of the vendors are supporting hardware, and then we need to replace it, unfortunately. So identifying what devices are coming out of support, what we can do to either stretch the lifespan or replace at the cheapest cost. Device age. We're trying to keep our devices in the district at industry age, you know, replacing computers 4 to 5 years. One thing in this area we identified as the teachers' computers, we're coming up on that 4 and 5 year mark. The technology and the small NUCs really hasn't changed that much, but we realized that with a little bit of memory upgrades, we could probably stretch another 1 to 2 years out of those devices. So for the low cost of adding some more memory, we were able to speed up those devices and keep them going. So that is something we're continually looking at. But like I said with the other one, there are some devices that the support ends and we have to replace. There are increasing and decreasing costs of technology. In the technology field, a lot of things are going to cost as a service. Get that off there. The mouse isn't working all the way back here. So we're seeing areas where the software is increasing cost, whereas the hardware is decreasing in cost because of that. And the one thing that we're always trying to do is stretch the budgeted money. The last thing I like to do is come to you guys and ask for you to fund an unbudgeted expense. So I'm always trying to identify what we can do and get the most out of what we've already allocated. New uses of technology in the classroom, how we can use what existing technology we have or what new technology we need to change the way we teach in the classroom. So for instance, when we went to Google Classroom. Of course, every teacher needed a webcam in their classroom, so that's something we added. But then we already had existing doc cams that we were able to leverage for use with microphones that were in the doc cams to enable that remote technology. And the area that I call is workforce technology preparation. The one thing that has always been my goal, and I've said a lot, is that I want to prepare the Penns Manor students to enter the world as prepared as any other school district in the technology field. So I'm continually trying to look for ways that we can get technology in our classrooms to have the students experience that technology so that they have the same exposure to it that school districts in other areas of the country, more wealthy, more urban areas have. That, I strive that rural Penns Manor students are just as far along in technology preparation as every other student. And that's the end. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Graham?
Weren't you going to ask for money?
No.
Did you say there were some unbudgeted expenses?
No, I said I tried to avoid any unbudgeted
Oh, okay. All right. I'm happy now. Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Graham.
Was the window pop-up part of the presentation?
That was me controlling the presentation from my computer here.
Okay, I was just, because you talked about devices and the cost and upgrading, I didn't know if that played into it.
That was the battery in my laptop going dead.
Okay. New batteries.
Okay, going along agenda, we have nothing under negotiations, nothing under curriculum, budget and finance. 5A, it's time for us to renew the tax abatement program. So we'll have a motion for that next Thursday. 5B, if you take a look at the packet, Mr. Muscatello will go over that. That's to approve property, liability, auto, and school leaders insurance.
Really, all I want you to do is draw your attention to the summary sheet. Has the chart on it. So we have worked with Walbeck Insurance Agency for, I believe, maybe 40 years at this point, at least 30, in terms of property liability, auto, excess liability, as well as school leaders liability. The summary sheet shows you what's happening, and I put a chart together. Basically, as you can see, the price fluctuates up and down, and it's really a matter of two things. The first is how many claims do we have in the previous year, and how many has our buildings, how have they appreciated? And so really what you're seeing is an increase this year, or excuse me, for next year, or I guess starting October 1st. What you're seeing is an increase is just that. So we had that claim for the due process hearing, which still hasn't been finalized yet. And our some of our buildings have appreciated because of some of the stuff that we put in the buildings as a part of the energy savings project. So that's what you're seeing there. And you can see in that chart there, the premiums are all basically around the same. So every year. And actually, if you just take a look, the 2021-22 premium, which is $50,000, if you go back and look at the 2019-20 premium, we're right around the same price. If you go back to 2018-19, it's less than $2,000. So it's all right around the same amount. It all has to do with building values and claims. And so it can go up and down. If we have a good year with claims, costs could go down. So.
What are some of the claims like?
So we had a claim for the lightning strike that we had here. That was the claim in 2017-18. The most recent claim that we had that's still pending that you see under claims there for 2021 was the due process claim that we're still going through right now. That's still open. Anytime we have a vehicle accident or a damage claim that exceeds our deductible, that would be claims. I don't know what that 15-16 claim is for. Do you have any idea?
I do.
Okay.
Oh, we were struck by lightning twice.
Okay, so there you go.
So lightning does strike twice.
It does.
Just not in the same part of the district. So
For some reason here it does.
So that's what that's all about. I just want to let you know that we have placed a lot of trust in the Walbeck Insurance Agency. First with old man Walbeck, and now with his son. They have done this district a great deal of great work for this district in terms of getting us good prices, being a great interface between us and the insurance company, and also being very, very speedy when it comes to claim filing. So it is once again my recommendation that for probably about the 40th year that we go with Walbeck Insurance Agency with CM Region Insurance.
Didn't we switch the insurance?
It's Liberty Mutual right now.
Right, and that's why we got that big deduction, or the $3,000 deduction there
And this year it wasn't.
in 2021.
Yeah. And so CM Region is going to do us better this time around. He's actually hoping there's another company, I can't think of the name of it right now, that for 2 years has been on a hot streak with premium quotes. He's thinking next year we'll be able to do even better than that. So it fluctuates. There you go.
The school leader's legal liability proposal that you have here.
Sure.
That covers who?
You're looking at them.
So that monetary limit of $1 million each claim or $1 million annual aggregate. So if somebody were to sue based on whatever premise, it's only covered for $1 million.
Yeah, well, yes.
So if somebody would sue with a $5 million claim, the difference is made up by who's sitting in this room.
Well, what are they suing for?
I'm just saying.
What's the reason why they're suing?
No, I'm just saying, because just based on the conversation that the folks had here, you know, and the legal aspects of things and the day and age we're in, I just want to be certain to know for myself if there's a situation that comes up that the school has a liability and there's a claim or coverage needs to be looked into.
Yeah.
That difference, it's only $1 million aggregate for everybody in this room.
Yes, that $1 million aggregate, that's correct. I think it's important to note that, first of all, off the top of my head, I don't know everything that's covered under that liability insurance, but let me just say that if you're personally liable, if you're being sued personally for something, that's different than if the school district is being, or the school board's being sued. That's the first thing. The second thing I should say is that you would have to be willfully negligent, not accidentally negligent, willfully negligent to be sued in particular situations. Now, no lawyer, but we have other coverages in our larger policy that cover, and we have excess liability in our larger policy that I believe covers up to $5 million. So, duly noted point though. So let me talk to Mr. Walbeck to see what other schools are doing in terms of their limit for school leaders.
Because I know we had this discussion probably 4 or 5 or 6 years ago, based on the circumstances that surrounded us at the time and in the environment and social we deal with.
Sure.
Now things have changed. And when a precedence is set somewhere, sometimes you might have to reevaluate what those liability limits are. Because again, I used to do tort for the state, and they were covered that if somebody were to sue the state for something, that there was a maximum limit that somebody could sue for. We aren't in that same situation. So if the coverage granted exceeds, judgments exceeds that, then that's more, which then you have to start to consider, is it something you have to get from a personal standpoint, liability insurance being participating in this group. Sure. That's nice. And I think that should be noted for everybody, just in the day and age that we're in, to think about.
Sure. Totally noted.
Any other questions for 5B? Okay, 5C, PSBA slate of candidates. Let's take a look at that packet. We need to have a motion to elect a president-elect. There are 2 candidates. We're to pick one of 2. So I don't know if you want to take a little bit of time to look at their bios there and give us a recommendation of who you would like in the motion. That particular.
Most of you have just in the past, I think, have said, put in the motion the ones that are closest to us. Do we still want to do that? Okay, because
west of the Susquehanna,
I
right?
think this is one of the, I mean, not, I realize we have to do this, but this is one of the, this frustrates me. We don't know these people
Right.
from a hole in the ground.
Right. And the bios are helpful, but again, you still don't know.
Right,
So,
right.
so what I'll do is I'll write the motion to put those who are the closest to us, so that we have potentially representation west of the Susquehanna, and we'll go from there.
I think we ought to write in Lisa.
Oh.
Vice president, there's only one, so that's self-pick. And then east zone has nothing to do with you because we're west, and there is nothing for section 1. So really, it's the president and vice president until you get clear back to PSBA insurance trust trustees. There's only 3 for the trustees, and you can pick 3, so those will be picked. And then he'll follow the same rule for the forum steering committee because there's 3 slots, but there's 4 people. Unless you object to that plan. Any other questions on that? Next, approve a tax abatement application. You do have an application there from Danielle and Michael Bassbinder for Manor Road Climber to be approved next week.
Don't they usually put a cost down? I just remember saying that. I don't know if
You should see a present assessment of the subject. The problem is, according to them, there was a small building on that property that they also tore down to build the house, and they were unaware of the present assessment. So I told them that I can guarantee you that the courthouse will know the present assessment, so they'll put it on there.
and it would only go through once it gets cleared at the courthouse.
Yeah, this is sort of this approval process is important. I could pass it on to the courthouse, but the courthouse is really who approves tax abatements.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, 5E, approve Rashini agreement for ACA reporting. That's the form to verify to the IRS the employee's head health coverage for the past 12 months.
This is a requirement
Yeah, every year.
Yep.
by the feds or
Obamacare. Well, ACA, Affordable Care Act.
Any other questions on that one? Nothing on the buildings and grounds, just except next week I'll acknowledge the group that restored the trail in the woods. So just so you know, I'll acknowledge all those folks and list them next week. Under athletics, we have the resignation for Mr. Pranish as head baseball coach to accept.
one of those.
7B, ambulance service agreement. You have that in front of you as a packet too. Each year and what the Citizens Ambulance approves or does for us. And then the total cost is $4,550.
Is that an increase or the same or
I think it's $250 increase.
Yes, it is.
250?
Thank you. Next 7C, just letting you know, we have out there girls softball head coach. We have no applications. Girls junior high volleyball assistant coach, the athletic committee. I have 2 individuals. I'm trying to communicate with Coach Hardesty. I'll communicate to all of you via email. I don't know if, here's the problem. We got that resignation late, and I know the season's going on, and in our deadline, we just got actually the second application in. So I don't know if I can twist it and turn it to get it done by next Thursday. I hope. We'll see. I'll communicate with you through email. Girls track and field assistant coach, there's no applications. Girls junior high basketball assistant coach 1, no applications. So we're going to have to go anybody you know and willing and wanting. We've already come to the deadline, so anyone you can send our way, we'll take a look at. Under transportation 8A, approve the drivers that are listed there as substitutes. Nothing under public relations policies. There's 2. These are related to what Mr. Saffron talked to you about last month. So if you look at policy 06, and if you turn to the second page, everything under agenda, and I apologize, this bold didn't come out very well. So the new is The district shall publicly post the agenda under agenda notification, that entire section. Our policy says, and what he talked to you about is that everyone has to post 24 hours prior. We'll leave the policy that way, but you all know we do it 2 days, 48 hours at a time. Then the other new section is everything from order of business down to the bottom of that page. And on to the next page, page 3, and it ends with executive session. Those are all the new bold type for that policy. So it comes down to the fact that the highlight is you have to post your agenda. He then also talked about related to policy 903. It's the bold, about 2/3 way down the page. When an item is added to the agenda after the public comment period has ended, the board shall offer further public comment opportunity limited to the added item. So that is basically policy being updated, what Mr. Saffron already communicated. Questions? New business. We have one guest teacher to approve. We have 12B, two substitute teachers to approve. 12C, we have one applicant for the elementary art substitute for that long term that we'll interview tomorrow morning. We only have one. We hope that person's strong tomorrow. 12D and E, we do have 3 applications. Those are replacing the 2 IAs that we're going to talk about on down through. There is no way we'll have these ready for you for next Thursday. So we will use a substitute until we feel comfortable, get through the interviews. I will identify to you when we'll do those. If you want to sit in on the IA interviews, you're certainly welcome to. And I'll let you know when that'll happen.
For the applicant substitutes now?
One. And there's 2 new ones. No, I take that back. One's a current employee. You're right. One's a current employee, one's a sub, and one's brand new. Next, 12F, accept the resignation of instructional assistants at Mrs. Wallace. And hers will be effective this past August 30th. Mrs. Romanchik's retiring as an IA. That's October 29th is her last day. If you can help with any of the following 12H and 12I, we also have went beyond the deadline for both of these. We have nobody applying for the hire for the phys ed and health long term, which is Mrs. Kazemchek, and we have no one for the special ed, which is Mrs. Horwat at the elementary. So, and I emailed every school and contacted them to see if anyone has anybody on their sub list, and I've got 0 back. Next, we have a quote in your packet as a handout to renew Go Guardian. Again, that's the software protection on every Chromebook that I shouldn't say. It's actually to guard against getting on things that they shouldn't on every student Chromebook. Is there anything you want to mention there, Dave?
The only thing I would mention is that it's a 3-year agreement, which because we went with the 3-year agreement, it is representing a decrease over the cost of last year. So the 1-year cost would have been an increase. By going 3 years, we'll actually see a little bit of savings from what we paid last year.
Okay. Questions, comments on that one?
These are just student devices that this is implemented in.
So that'd be every Chromebook in the district.
So we have 781 of them.
So that's the guardianship part that all administrators and Dave gets, even in-house or outside of here. If they're on something that they shouldn't be, it takes a picture and they all get the information.
It filters alerts, and also there are other pieces. That's how we assign a Chromebook to a student, is using that Go Guardian software, so we're able to track that device directly to the student that it's assigned to. Last year, and we were very fortunate that the only alert we got was a false alarm, but as part of the package last year, we also got a suicide prevention program as part of this, which is identifying their search history, video view history to identify suicidal thoughts or people that are potentially at risk. So that's also part of this.
And I'm sure all students know that we do have this, and that hopefully prevents a lot of them from checking it out.
Mrs. Dolges explains it, but it still has.
One of our biggest Google searches is how to get around GoGuardian. So, and whenever I see that, I block that Google search. So actually, unblocking GoGuardian is a block Google search in GoGuardian.
And I tell every kid at every grade level meeting, I go over it. If it's something inappropriate, I'm gonna get a screenshot and we're gonna have a very awkward conversation between you and I, then between us and your parents, and every year it happens.
It's mainly sixth grade.
I mean,
The younger grades, yeah.
as an example of a success, we did identify one student who was planning on running away through
Sure.
GoGuardian.
Sure.
So we were able to identify that plan. They were talking to an older person in another state that they were planning on going to meet. GoGuardian sent those alerts, and we were able to contact the parent.
Good.
Other questions? Next, 12K, approve student assistance letter of agreement for the Armstrong, Indiana Clarion Drug and Alcohol Commission. That's an agreement with the student assistance program that we operate at the high school. And that's at no cost to us. 12L and M, being that it's late and there's nobody in here.
We're on.
Oh, okay. So, thank you. Sorry, I'm a little weary here. So 12L, we have a request for FMLA request. We'll talk about that in executive session. 12M, another request for FMLA. We'll talk about that in executive session. 12N, to approve a leave request for Article 9, and we'll talk about that in executive session. And then I just placed health and safety plan update so that if we, even though the order says that it's not, that the health and safety plan does not have to be changed, we could change it. And then any discussion that you want to have, if there's a consequence, we're just saying as administration, if you want the consequence in place, the only thing we can tag it to is feeling that masking has to do with dress code. So we was going to define the dress code with a broader definition and have you approve that in the student handbooks. Question or comments? If not, we can go to executive session, but I just lost Dave.
No, he's out there. I see him.
He's looking to get a laptop. Dave, we're going to go to executive session.